The research station floated in the darkness like a metal flower. Its silver arms stretched out toward the dead planet below. Inside the station, Dr. Hyunwoo walked down the long white hallway. His steps echoed in the quiet space. He stopped at a heavy door marked with warning signs. Red letters in 12 different languages all said the same thing. Danger. Do not enter. Authorized personnel only. Hyunwoo pressed his hand to the scanner. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, a room full of machines hummed and blinked. In the center, floating in a cage of blue light, was the thing that had killed 17 people. The weapon looked like it was made of crystal and light. It changed shape slowly, never staying the same for long. Sometimes it looked like a twisted tree. Other times it seemed like frozen lightning. The size never changed, though. It was always as big as a person's chest. Still no luck with the scans? Asked Jiho. The young researcher looked tired. Dark circles ringed his eyes. Hyunwoo shook his head. The readings make no sense. Every time we try to study it, the numbers change. It's like the thing knows we're watching. Through the thick glass window, they could see the weapon floating. It glowed with a soft white light that hurt to look at for too long. The containment field around it sparked and crackled. The stations, computers worked day and night just to keep it trapped. The council meeting is in 2 hours, Jiho said. They're really going to throw it into the black hole? What choice do we have? Hyunwoo turned away from the window. We can't study it. We can't move it safely. And we certainly can't let anyone touch it. Not after what happened to the others. The memories still haunted him. 17 researchers from different worlds. All of them brilliant. All of them dead. The weapon had killed them the moment they got too close. Not with heat or cold or poison. It had simply stopped their hearts. Their brains had shut down like someone had turned off a switch. The worst part was how peaceful they looked afterward. No pain on their faces, no fear, just empty eyes staring at nothing. Dr. Hyunwoo to the docking bay. Dr. Hyunwoo to the docking bay. The voice from the speakers made him jump. He looked at Jiho. The supply ship? Must be. We're expecting food and equipment from Earth. They left the weapons lab and walked through the station's main corridor. The place felt too empty. Most of the research team had been sent away after the last accident. Only 12 people remained on the station. Just enough to keep the lights on and the containment field running. The docking bay was loud with the sound of machines. A small ship sat in the landing area. Steam rose from its engines as they cooled. Workers in orange suits moved boxes and containers. A woman walked down the ship's ramp. She wore a blue uniform with captain's stripes on her shoulders. Her name tag read, Dae-Yoon, Captain, Transport Vessel Aurora. Dr. Hyunwoo? She held out her hand. Captain Da-eun. Sorry we're late. Had some engine trouble near Jupiter. He shook her hand. No problem. We weren't expecting anyone for another week. Change of plans. The council wants this delivery done. Fast? She looked around the docking bay. Quiet place you have here. Most of our team was transferred. Hyunwoo didn't want to explain why. We're just a skeleton crew now. A small voice called out from the ship. Mom, can I come out now? Captain Da-eun's face changed. She looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. I didn't have a choice. Custody issues. My daughter had to come with me this time. A little girl ran down the ramp. She had bright eyes and wore a yellow dress. She looked maybe 8 years old. Her hair was tied in 2 small ponytails that bounced when she moved. This place is huge. The girl spun in a circle, arms spread wide. It's like a flying city. Subin, stay close, Captain Da-eun said. This is a workplace, not a playground. The girl nodded, but her eyes were already exploring everything around her. She pointed at the big windows that showed the dead planet below. What's that? Kepler 442c, Hyunwoo said. We're studying it. It looks sad, like a sick animal. The words made Hyunwoo pause. He had studied the planet for 2 years. He knew every crater and dead ocean. But he had never thought of it as sad before. Dr. Hyunwoo, Captain Da-eun said. The manifest shows special handling instructions for some equipment. Something about containment protocols? Yes. New power cells for our main project. Very sensitive. He didn't mention what the project was. Civilians didn't need to know about the weapon. Mom, can I explore while you work? Subin asked. I promise, I won't touch anything important. Captain Da'on looked uncertain. This isn't our ship, Subin. There might be dangerous areas. She can stay in the common areas, Hyunwoo said. Section A is safe. Just the living quarters and dining hall. Please, Mom? Captain Da'un sighed. Fine. But you stay in Section A only. And if anyone tells you to leave an area, you listen. Understood? Subin nodded eagerly. She was all ready, walking toward the corridor, head turning left and right as she took in everything around her. 3 hours later, Hyunwoo sat in the station's main meeting room. The wall screen showed 12 faces from different worlds. The Galactic Council was in session. The weapon has proven impossible to study safely, said Counselor Taeho. His reptilian features were stern. We have lost too many good people. The knowledge it might contain could advance our technology by centuries, argued Counselor Minjung. Her gaseous form shifted colors as she spoke. Surely there must be another way. 17 deaths, Counselor. 17 brilliant minds lost. The cybernetic face of Unit Donghyun showed no emotion. The risk is too great. Hyunwoo leaned forward. Give us more time. We're working on new containment methods, remote scanning techniques. You've had 2 years, Doctor, Taeho said. How many more lives are you willing to sacrifice? The debate went on for another hour. In the end, the vote was 8-4. The weapon would be loaded onto an automated ship and fired into the nearest black hole. The station would be abandoned. Hyunwoo walked back to his quarters feeling defeated. 2 years of work. The greatest archaeological find in galactic history. Gone. He passed the weapons lab and stopped. Through the window, he could see the crystal thing floating in its cage of light. For just a moment, it seemed to pulse brighter, almost like it was listening, like it knew what was coming. Tomorrow, the containment system would be moved to the disposal ship. By the end of the week, the weapon would be falling toward the event horizon of a black hole. Its secrets would die, with it in the crushing darkness of collapsed space. Hyunwoo pressed his hand against the window. The crystal thing pulsed again. This time, he was sure it was responding to him. What are you? He whispered to the glass. What were you trying to tell us? The weapon spun slowly in its prison of light, beautiful and deadly, ancient and mysterious. And somewhere in the station, a little girl in a yellow dress was learning her way around her temporary home. Subin finished her breakfast in the station's small dining hall. Her mother was still meeting with Dr. Hyunwoo about cargo schedules. The grown-ups always took forever to talk about boring work stuff. She decided to explore more of Section A. Yesterday, she had found the library and the exercise room. Today, she wanted to see what else was hidden in the long white corridors. The station was much quieter than their ship. At home, the Aurora always hummed with engine noise and crew chatter. Here, her footsteps echoed like she was walking through an empty cave. She turned a corner and found a hallway she hadn't seen before. The walls here had more warning signs than the other areas. Red and yellow symbols covered the doors. Subin couldn't read all the words, but she understood the pictures. Danger. Keep out. Authorized personnel only. One door was different from the others. It had a big window made of thick glass. Subin stood on her tiptoes and peered through. Inside was a room full of blinking machines. Blue light danced in the center of the space, and floating in that light was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. It looked like a giant jewel made of ice and starlight. The shape kept changing slowly, like water flowing uphill. Sometimes it looked like a flower opening its petals. Other times it seemed like a bird spreading its wings. Subin pressed her nose against the glass. The thing was sad. She could feel it somehow, the way she could tell when her mom was upset even when she tried to hide it. You're lonely, aren't you? She whispered to the glass. The crystal thing stopped moving for a moment. Then it pulsed with brighter light. Subin, she spun around. Jiho was walking toward her, looking worried. You shouldn't be here. This is Section B. It's restricted. I'm sorry. I got lost. Subin looked back at the window. What's that pretty thing in there? Jiho's face went pale. That's a very dangerous artifact. Come on, let's get you back to the safe area. But as they walked away, Subin kept looking over her shoulder. The crystal thing pulsed again, like it was trying to get her attention. That night, Subin couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the lonely jewel floating in its cage of light. Her mom had told her stories about imprisoned princesses and dragons locked in towers. This felt the same somehow. She slipped out of her temporary room and walked through the quiet corridors. The station's night lighting made everything look blue and mysterious. Her bare feet made no sound on the cold floor. She found her way back, to the window. The crystal thing was still there, still changing shape in its prison of light. This time Subin sat down on the floor and watched. Hi, she said softly. I came back to visit you. The thing pulsed brighter. The machines around it started beeping faster. Are you trying to talk to me? Subin tilted her head. I wish I could understand. In the security office 3 levels away, Boram stared at her monitors in shock. The weapon's energy readings were going crazy, but not in the dangerous way they usually did. These readings were different. Calmer somehow. She switched cameras and saw the little girl sitting by the window. Boram reached for the alarm button, then stopped. The weapon's hostile energy signature had dropped to almost 0. For the first time since they'd found it, the thing wasn't trying to break free of its containment. Back at the window, Subin was drawing pictures in the dust on the floor. This is my mom, she said, showing her stick figure to the glass. She flies spaceships, and this is me. I'm going to be an explorer when I grow up. The crystal thing shifted into a shape that almost looked like it was bending down to see her drawings better. You like my pictures? Subin smiled. I'm not very good at drawing yet, but Mom says I'll get better with practice. Dr. Hyun-woo found them there an hour later. He had been working late in his lab when Boram called him about the strange energy readings. He expected to find some kind of equipment malfunction. Instead, he found a little girl having a tea party with the most dangerous object in the galaxy. Subin, he said quietly, trying not to startle her. What are you doing here? Visiting my friend. She pointed at the window. It gets lonely at night. Hyun-woo looked at the weapon. Its usual sharp, threatening shape had softened into something that almost looked like a flower. The containment field was barely working because the weapon wasn't fighting it anymore. Your friend? He asked. Uh-huh. It's very sad. I think it's been alone for a long time. Subin stood up and brushed dust off her pajamas. It likes when I talk to it. Subin, that thing is very dangerous. It hurt some people who tried to get close to it. The little girl looked confused. But it's not mean. It's just scared. Before Hyun-woo could respond, Captain Da-eun appeared in the hallway. She looked worried and angry at the same time. Subin, I've been looking everywhere for you. You're supposed to stay in Section A. I'm sorry, Mom. I just wanted to visit. No excuses. Come on, we're going back to the ship. As they started to leave, Subin pulled away from her mother's hand. She ran back to the window and pressed her palm against the glass. I'll come back tomorrow, she whispered. I promise. The crystal thing pulsed once, very gently. Then its energy reading spiked to dangerous levels. Alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridors. The weapon began thrashing against its containment field, trying to follow Subin as she was led away. Move, 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 Hyun-woo shouted. Get her out of here. But as soon as Subin was out of sight, the weapon calmed down. The alarms stopped. The red lights went dark. In his security office, Boram stared at the readings. In 2 years of study, they had never seen the weapon react to anyone like this. It was like the thing had formed some kind of bond with the child. Dr. Hyun-woo stood alone in the corridor, looking through the window at the crystal thing. It had returned to its usual threatening shape, all sharp edges and hostile energy. But, for just a moment he had seen something else, something that looked almost like hope. Tomorrow the disposal ship would arrive to take the weapon away. But tonight Dr. Hyunwoo had seen something that changed everything he thought he knew about their mysterious artifact. Maybe they had been approaching this all wrong. Maybe instead of trying to study it like an object, they should have been trying to talk to it like a friend. Dr. Hyunwoo couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what he had seen the night before. The weapon's peaceful reaction to Subin made no sense according to everything they knew about it. At dawn, he made a decision that went against every safety protocol they had. He was going to let the child try again. He found Captain Da-yoon in the dining hall, drinking coffee and looking tired. Subin sat beside her, playing with her food and looking sad. "Captain, I need to ask you something unusual," Hyunwoo said, sitting down across from them. Da-yoon raised an eyebrow. "If it's about last night, I'm sorry. Subin won't wander off again. Actually, it's the opposite. I want her to go back." Both mother and daughter stared at him. Subin's eyes lit up with hope. "Are you crazy?" Da-eun put down her coffee cup hard. "You said that thing was dangerous." "It is, to everyone else, but not to her." Hyunwoo leaned forward. "Captain, your daughter might be the key to the greatest discovery in galactic history." He explained what they had observed, the energy readings, the weapon's peaceful behavior, the way it had reacted when Subin was taken away. "You want to use my 8-year-old daughter as a test subject," Da-eun said. Her voice was cold. "I want to give your daughter a chance to make first contact with an intelligence we don't understand." Hyunwoo looked at Subin. "But only if she wants to." Subin looked at her mother with pleading eyes. "Mom, it really isn't mean. It's just lonely and scared." "Absolutely not. Please? I promise I'll be careful." The argument went on for an hour. Finally, Da-eun agreed to let Subin try again, but only with full safety measures. Hyunwoo, Ji-ho, and Bo-ram would monitor everything from the control room. The moment anything looked dangerous, they would pull Subin out. They set up chairs outside the weapons lab. Subin sat down in front of the window while the adults watched from a safe distance. "Hi again," Subin said to the crystal thing. "I told you I'd come back." The weapon's shape softened immediately. Its harsh angles became curves. The hostile energy readings dropped to almost nothing. "My name is Subin. What's your name?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then Subin gasped and put her hand to her head. "Subin!" Da-eun started forward, but Hyunwoo caught her arm. "Wait, look at the readings." The weapon's energy signature was changing, but not in a dangerous way. It was pulsing in a rhythm that looked almost like a heartbeat. Subin lowered her hand. Her eyes were wide with wonder. "It has a name," she whispered. "It told me its name." "What?" Hyunwoo stepped closer. "What did it tell you?" "Ki-woon. Its name is Ki-woon." Subin looked back at the window. "And it's not an it, he's a he." The crystal being pulsed brighter, as if happy to finally be recognized as a person instead of a thing. "Ki-woon is very old," Subin continued. "Older than the stars. He's been alone for so long that he forgot how to talk to people nicely." "He's talking to you now?" Ji-ho asked, moving closer with his scanner. Subin nodded. "Not with words, with feelings. He's showing me pictures in my mind." She was quiet for a long moment, her face scrunched up in concentration. "He says his people weren't from here. They came from very far away when the galaxy was young." Hyunwoo felt his heart racing. This was it. First contact with an alien intelligence, and it was happening through an 8-year-old girl. "What else is he telling you?" he asked gently. "He's sad because everyone is afraid of him. He doesn't want to hurt people. But when they come too close with their machines and try to poke him, he gets scared. When he gets scared, his fear makes people's hearts stop." Subin turned to look at the adults. "He didn't mean to hurt those people. He was just trying to protect himself." Captain Da-eun knelt down beside her daughter. "Subin, are you feeling okay? Does your head hurt?" "I'm fine, Mom. Ki-woon is being very gentle. He likes me because I'm not afraid of him." The crystal being's shape shifted again. This time it looked almost like a person sitting down, as if Kiwoon was trying to match Subin's posture. He wants to know why everyone wants to throw him into the dark place, Subin said, frowning. He's afraid of the dark. He doesn't want to be alone again. Hyunwoo realized she was talking about the black hole. Somehow, Kiwoon knew about the council's decision. Tell him we thought he was just a weapon, Hyunwoo said. We didn't know he was alive. Subin relayed the message. Kiwoon's response made her giggle. He says that's silly. How can a weapon ask questions or feel lonely? He says your people think too much with your machines and not enough with your hearts. For the next hour, Subin served as a translator between Kiwoon and the research team. Slowly, an incredible story emerged. Kiwoon's people had been the first intelligent species to travel between stars. They had explored the galaxy when it was young, before most of the current civilizations existed. They were guardians and teachers, helping younger species learn to use technology wisely. What happened to the rest of his people? Da-un asked. Subin listened to Kiwoon's response. They didn't die. They became something else, something bigger. They joined with the light between the stars. They transcended physical existence, Hyunwoo breathed. Became energy beings. Kiwoon stayed behind to watch over the younger peoples. But as time passed, the new species became afraid of him. They saw his power and wanted to use it for fighting. When he refused to help them make weapons, they tried to capture him and force him. The crystal being pulsed sadly. He's been running and hiding for millions of years. Every time someone finds him, they want to use him to hurt others. He's so tired of being alone. Subin stood up and pressed her hand against the window. Kiwoon's form shifted to match her gesture, as if he was pressing back from the other side. He asks if humans are different, if we would be his friends instead of trying to use him. Dr. Hyunwoo looked at Captain Da-yoon, then at his research team. They were facing a decision that would change everything. Tell him, Hyunwoo said slowly, that humans would be honored to be his friend. Kiwoon's light grew so bright that they had to shield their eyes. When it faded, his crystalline form had changed into something that looked almost like a person made of starlight, sitting peacefully in the containment field. He's happy, Subin said, wiping tears from her eyes. He hasn't been happy in so long. But their celebration was interrupted by an alarm. Boram's voice came over the intercom. Dr. Hyunwoo, the disposal ship just arrived. The council representatives are demanding immediate transfer of the weapon. Through the window they could see Kiwoon's form flickering with worry. Subin looked up at her mother. Mom, we can't let them take Kiwoon to the dark place. He's not a weapon, he's a person. Captain Da-un looked at the ancient being, then at her daughter's determined face. Then I guess we'd better figure out how to convince the Galactic Council that they're about to commit murder. The disposal ship looked like a giant metal coffin floating beside the research station. Captain Woo Jin of the automated vessel was already preparing the transfer equipment when Dr. Hyunwoo called for an emergency council meeting. This is highly irregular, said Councillor Taeho. His reptilian face filled the main screen in the conference room. The disposal order has already been signed. With respect, Councillor, we have new information, Hyunwoo said. The artifact is not a weapon, it's a sentient being. The council members looked at each other with doubt. Councillor Min Jung's gaseous form shifted colors rapidly. Doctor, you've been studying this object for 2 years. Now suddenly you claim it's alive? Because we've been approaching it wrong. We tried to study it like a thing instead of talking to it like a person. Unit Donghyun's cybernetic face showed no emotion. What evidence do you have of this claim? Dr. Hyunwoo gestured to Subin, who was sitting quietly beside her mother. This child made contact with the being. She's been communicating with it. A human child? Councillor Taeho's laugh was harsh. Our greatest scientist couldn't learn anything from this artifact, but you expect us to believe a child succeeded? Sometimes children see things that adults miss, Captain Da-yoon said. My daughter has been talking to this being for 2 days. His name is Kiwoon. The council members began talking all at once. Some were angry, others seemed curious. Ambassador Jae-sung, the human representative, looked thoughtful. If this is true, Jae-sung said, then we need to hear what this Ki-woon has to say. Subin stood up. He wants to tell you about his people, about why he's here. With Subin translating, Ki-woon began to share his story with the Galactic Council. The tale he told was bigger than anyone had imagined. Long ago, when the galaxy was young, Ki-woon's people had been the first to travel between stars. They called themselves the First Walkers. They had discovered how to fold space and travel faster than light. They had learned to harness the power of stars and create matter from pure energy. They could have ruled the whole galaxy, Subin translated, but they didn't want to rule. They wanted to help. The First Walkers had become teachers and guardians. When new species developed intelligence, the First Walkers would visit them. They would share knowledge carefully, making sure each species was ready for the responsibility that came with advanced technology. Ki-woon says your people all met the First Walkers long ago, Subin said, looking at the council members. But you don't remember because it was so long ago. Counselor Min Jung's colors shifted to deep blue. That's impossible. Our historical records go back 50,000 years. Ki-woon has been alive for millions of years, Subin replied. He remembers when your worlds were young. The ancient being shared memories through Subin. Images of primitive saurians learning to use fire. Early ethereals discovering how to change their molecular structure. The first Nexus units learning to network their minds together. The First Walkers helped all of you become what you are today, Subin explained. They gave you the quantum pathways you use to travel between stars. They taught you how to create the energy sources that power your cities. But as the younger species grew stronger, some began to fear the First Walkers. Their power was too great. What if they decided to stop being helpful and start being rulers instead? Some of your ancestors tried to capture the First Walkers, Subin continued. They wanted to steal their knowledge and use it to make weapons. The First Walkers were sad about this, but they understood. Fear makes people do foolish things. So the First Walkers made a choice. They would leave the physical world behind and become one with the energy that flows between stars. They would still watch over the younger species, but from a distance, where they couldn't be feared or captured. All except Ki-woon, Subin said. He stayed behind to test the younger peoples, to see if they had learned wisdom along with knowledge. Unit Dong-hyun processed this information quickly. You're saying, the dead worlds where we find these artifacts are test sites? Subin nodded. Ki-woon goes to sleep on empty planets and waits. When people find him, he sees how they react. Do they try to understand him, or do they just want to use his power? The council chamber was quiet as they realized what this meant. Every civilization that had found Ki-woon had failed the test. They had all tried to weaponize him or study him like an object. Until now, Subin added. Humans are the first ones to ask him his name. Counselor Tai-ho leaned forward. What happens to species that pass this test? Subin listened to Ki-woon's response. Her eyes grew wide. He says the First Walkers are still watching. If a species proves they're wise enough, the First Walkers will come back and share their greatest secrets. What kind of secrets? Asked Jae-sung. How to travel to other galaxies. How to create new stars when old ones die. How to help other species become intelligent without making the same mistakes. The implications were staggering. Access to technology that could advance civilization by millions of years. The ability to explore beyond their own galaxy. The chance to become teachers and guardians themselves. But Counselor Tai-ho wasn't convinced. How do we know this being is telling the truth? How do we know this isn't some elaborate deception? Ki-woon's response came through Subin immediately. He says he'll prove it. He wants to show you something. The crystal being's form began to change. Instead of the flowing abstract shapes they were used to, Ki-woon became perfectly still. His surface became smooth like a mirror. Suddenly, the laboratory filled with light. Not the harsh glare of the containment field, but a soft, warm glow that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Images appeared in the air around them, not on screens or holograms, but floating in three-dimensional space like living memories. They saw the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, young stars, burning bright, worlds covered in primitive life, and moving between them, beings of crystal and light, carefully guiding the development of intelligence wherever it appeared. They watched the rise of the first civilizations, the mistakes and failures, the wars that nearly destroyed entire species. And always the first walkers were there, offering gentle guidance to those who would listen. "This is impossible," Counselor Minjung whispered. "The energy required to create these projections. Kiwoon says this is just a tiny fraction of what the first walkers can do," Subin translated. "They became part of the cosmic background. Radiation. They're everywhere in the galaxy, but invisible unless they choose to reveal themselves. The images faded, but the message was clear. Kiwoon wasn't just an ancient artifact. He was a representative of beings so advanced that they had transcended physical existence itself." "So what happens now?" asked Ambassador Jae-sung. Subin smiled. "Kiwoon wants to travel with humans. He's been alone for so long and he likes having friends. He promises to teach us things gradually so we don't get overwhelmed." "And if we refuse?" asked Unit Dong-hyun. "Then he'll find another empty planet and go back to sleep. Maybe in another 1,000,000 years, someone else will ask him his name." The council debated for hours. Some members were excited by the possibilities. Others were afraid of the responsibility. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would become the first species to pass Kiwoon's test. The ancient guardian would join them as a friend and teacher, not as a captured weapon. As the council meeting ended, Subin walked back to the laboratory window. Kiwoon had returned to his gentle, flowing form. "Are you happy?" she asked him, the crystal being pulsed with warm light. Through their connection, Subin felt something she had never experienced before. The joy of an intelligence older than worlds, finally finding friends after millions of years of loneliness. "We're going to have so many adventures," she whispered, to the glass. And in the depths of space, ancient beings made of starlight smiled and began to plan humanity's introduction to the wider universe. 3 weeks later, the Aurora flew through space with a very special passenger. Kiwoon had merged with the ship's systems, not as a parasite but as a partner. The old transport vessel now moved faster than it ever had before, powered by technology, beyond human understanding. Chief Engineer Ye Jin couldn't stop smiling as she watched her instruments. "Captain, our engine efficiency is up by 300% and the quantum drive, I've never seen readings like these." Captain Daun nodded from her command chair. Through the viewports, stars streaked past in patterns that shouldn't have been possible with their old engines. "How are you doing this, Kiwoon?" The answer didn't come through words or speakers. Instead, Kiwoon spoke directly to their minds with gentle thoughts that felt like warm sunlight. "I am simply showing your machines how to work with the natural flow of space instead of fighting against it. Your species builds things well, but you make them work too hard." Subin giggled from her seat near the navigation console. She had become Kiwoon's official translator, though the ancient being was learning to communicate with other humans too. "He says our technology is like trying to swim upstream in a river," she explained to Medical Officer In-soo, who was documenting everything for his reports. "Kiwoon is teaching us to swim with the current instead." The past 3 weeks had been a time of wonder and discovery. Kiwoon had integrated with the Aurora system so smoothly that it was hard to remember what the ship had been like before. The lights were brighter but used less power. The artificial gravity felt more natural. Even the recycled air tasted fresher. But the real changes were in the crew. Kiwoon shared knowledge carefully, giving them new understanding little by little so they wouldn't be overwhelmed. Engineer So Young had learned new principles of energy flow that made their fusion reactor run like a whisper instead of a roar. Navigator Lieutenant Woo Jin found that Kiwoon could show him quantum currents in space that cut travel time in half. "It's like having a wise grandfather who happens to know the secrets of the universe," So Young had told her family in her last message home. Dr. Hyun-woo had stayed on the research station to write his reports, but he visited the Aurora regularly. Each time he was amazed by how much the ship had evolved. "The Galactic Council is calling it the most significant advancement in space travel in 10,000 years, he told Captain Dayun during his latest visit. Every species wants to know how humans achieved this breakthrough. And what are you telling them? Daun asked. The truth. That we asked nicely instead of trying to take by force. The other galactic civilizations were struggling to understand what had happened. Some were angry that humans had been chosen over species with longer histories and greater knowledge. Others were curious about how they might make contact with Kiwoon themselves. But Kiwoon had made his choice clear. Humans had passed his test by treating him as a friend instead of a tool. That friendship came with both gifts and responsibilities. Kiwoon wants to meet more humans, Subin announced during their morning briefing. He likes how different we all are. Mom flies ships, Yejin fixes engines, Insu heals people. He says diversity makes species stronger. Captain Daun smiled at her daughter. In the past few weeks, Subin had changed too. She was still an 8-year-old, girl who liked to draw pictures and play games. But now she also carried the wisdom of an ancient being who had watched galaxies form. Where does he want to go? Daun asked. Earth first. He wants to see our home world. Then maybe some of the colony planets. He's curious about how humans live in different places. The journey to Earth took only 2 days with Kiwoon's help. Normally it would have taken 2 weeks. As they entered Earth's solar system, Kiwoon's presence filled the ship with a sense of coming home. Your star is young and bright. Kiwoon's thoughts reached them all. Full of life and possibility. I can see why your species has such energy and curiosity. They landed at the primary spaceport in Seoul. Word of their arrival had spread quickly. Crowds of people waited to catch a glimpse of the ship that carried humanity's first alien friend. But Kiwoon was nervous about meeting so many people at once. Subin could feel his anxiety through their connection. He's afraid people will want to study him like the researchers did, she told her mother. He doesn't want to be poked and prodded anymore. Ambassador Jae-sung had arranged for a small private meeting instead of the large ceremony that had been planned. Only 12 people would meet Kiwoon at first. Scientists, teachers, and artists who had been chosen for their wisdom rather than their fame. The meeting took place in a simple room with big windows overlooking a garden. Kiwoon manifested as a gentle pillar of light, taking care not to appear threatening. Professor Minho, Earth's leading expert on consciousness, spoke first. Kiwoon, we're honored by your presence. What would you like humans to understand about your people? Through Subin, Kiwoon's response was thoughtful. We learned long ago that knowledge without wisdom leads to destruction. Power without compassion creates only suffering. Your species is young, but you have something many older civilizations lost. What's that? Asked Dr. Yoon-jung, a philosopher who studied ethics, hope, wonder, the ability to see beauty in small things. Kiwoon's light pulsed gently. Subin saw me as lonely rather than dangerous. She offered friendship before asking for anything in return. That is why the first walkers chose humanity. Over the following months, Kiwoon began teaching select groups of humans about advanced technologies, but he was careful to share only what they were ready to handle. Medical. Researchers learned new ways to heal diseases without harmful side effects. Engineers discovered how to build machines that worked in harmony with natural forces. Artists found new ways to create beauty that touched the soul as well as the eye. It's not just about the technology, explained Dr. Hyun-woo in his published papers. Kiwoon is teaching us a new way of thinking, how to solve problems through cooperation instead of competition. The changes rippled outward from Earth to the colonies. Humans began approaching challenges differently. Instead of trying to conquer nature, they learned to work with it. Instead of building bigger weapons, they focused on building better communities. Other species in the galaxy watched these changes with a mixture of envy and hope. Some tried to contact Kiwoon directly, but the ancient being remained loyal to his human friends. The first walkers are watching, Kiwoon explained to a delegation from the Saurian Empire. If your people can learn to offer friendship without expecting rewards, perhaps one day you too will be chosen. Subin, now 9 years old, had become something of a celebrity. She received thousands of messages from children across the galaxy who wanted to know what it was like to be friends with an ancient being. It's like having the smartest, kindest teacher in the universe, she replied in a video message that was broadcast to every world. But the best part isn't what he teaches me. It's that he listens when I have problems too. Indeed, Kiwoon had learned as much from humans as he had taught them. Through Subin and the crew of the Aurora, he rediscovered the simple joys he had, forgotten during his millions of years of loneliness. He learned to appreciate the taste of chocolate through Insu's memories. He experienced the satisfaction of fixing a broken engine through Yejin's emotions. He felt the pride of a mother watching her child grow through Daeun's love for Subin. The first walkers made a mistake when they abandoned physical existence, Kiwoon confided to Subin one evening as they watched Earth sunset through the ship's windows. They gained infinite knowledge but lost the ability to feel simple happiness. "Will you tell them that?" Subin asked. "Perhaps someday, but for now I am content to learn about friendship from the wisest teacher I have ever known." "Who's that?" Kiwoon's light pulsed with gentle amusement. "A little girl who asked a lonely crystal what its name was." As the Aurora prepared for its next journey to explore the outer colonies, Captain Daeun looked at her transformed ship and her extraordinary daughter. The future stretched ahead of them, full of wonders yet to be discovered. Humanity had passed an ancient test by offering friendship to a stranger. In return, they had gained not just advanced technology, but something far more valuable. A reminder that the greatest strength came not from what they could take, but from what they were willing to give. And somewhere in the depths of space, beings of pure energy smiled and began preparing their next gift for the species that had remembered how to be kind. The galaxy would never be the same, not because humans had found a powerful weapon, but because they had chosen to make a friend. Instead, and that Kiwoon knew was the most powerful force in the universe.